No one's supposed to go inside, but something always unlocks the gate. They say the old Turner Elementary still breathes after dark, like the building remembers who never left. Maya came here to reopen the building for art therapy classes. The children's art was decades old, except for one picture that hadn't been there yesterday. Someone had drawn her. Same jacket, same smile. She decided to record her cleanup that night, just to prove nothing strange was happening. But the camera caught what her eyes could not. At first, it was soft, a quiet tap, 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 like tiny nails clicking on tile. Each sound seemed to crawl closer, though nothing was there to make it. A child-sized figure crouched in the corner, its arms far too long for its body, tracing letters across the wall without a pencil. The pins caught the candlelight, shaping faint outlines of faces in the wall. These weren't drawings anymore. They were being pressed into the plaster, one breath at a time. She whispered into the dark, trying to steady her breath. Maybe it was just an art prank, she told herself. Something vandals left behind. But the walls didn't feel abandoned. They felt awake. Then the air turned cold, and a single breath swept through the room, until every candle died at once. When her flashlight cut through the dark, the crouched child was gone, and where he'd been, a new picture waited, a tall woman, caught forever mid-scream. The air thickened behind her, and tiny wet prints began to appear, each one closer than the last. Something small was walking barefoot through the dark. On the cold floor, the pins began to tremble, rolling toward her boots, slow and deliberate, as if guided by someone's breath she couldn't feel. She bent closer, her breath fogging the metal. In every reflection, her mouth was sewn shut, threads pulling tighter each time she tried to speak. Then the air began to vibrate, trembling with a voice that wasn't hers. A child whispered through the wall, soft, pleading, "Don't erase me." The room fell still until the plaster itself began to move. It swelled like a chest, taking air, and even the wax forgot which way to fall. The wall itself inhaled. And then, in a flash, she saw him. A small, silent boy with eyes that glowed like dying embers, waiting to be remembered. Fear froze her knees, locking her in place. But the brushes slipped through the air in slow motion, each one falling like a ticking second in the dark. Then, without a touch, the candles came alive again, burning blue instead of gold. Their light felt cold, like memory stirring after years of silence. He crept from the corner, slow and deliberate. Each finger rang against the floor like metal on glass, and tiny sparks drifted from his hands like dying stars. She gathered enough breath to ask, "Who are you?" But the child didn't speak. He only heard one hollow note stitched through the air. Then the wall began to draw, thin light, carving her outline stroke by stroke, as if the child's shadow was sketching her into its world. She reached for her phone, desperate for proof. But the moment the lens found the light, the frame rippled, blurring like static water refusing to remember what it saw. She checked her phone, hoping for proof, but in the screen's reflection, he was already standing behind her, silent, waiting, only visible through the lens. The flashlight trembled on the floor as letters began to press through the plaster, words forming on their own, carved by invisible hands. The sketches began to shine, their faded lines burning back to life, each one pulsing and spreading like veins beneath the skin. The art began to breathe. He stood inches away, unmoving, as the stitches that sealed his silence began to give. Thread by thread, the quiet started to open.
The room erupted in white, every flame snuffed out in the same breath. For a heartbeat, the walls burned with faces. Then every light in the school died screaming.
By morning, the school was silent again, but the art had changed. Two figures now, drawn together, forever side by side.
And every night since, the walls keep drawing.